Coming up on this episode.
To run a productive meeting, simple acronym, APPLE, aim,
Yep.
preparation,
Yes.
people, length and environment. Okay, that's 5 simple elements to the acronym to remember to run a productive meeting. Now my question is to the people out there listening, out of those 5 elements, which one is the most important to you right now? Yes. I'm intrigued because you've not told me about this and there's 3 or 4 on the table.
I know, and I've realised that I've started eating this one, and now we've got a podcast to do, and it's not very sociable. Apple.
Well, I thought they were plastic and then you bit into one. I was like, oh.
I know, yeah. And maybe just put that there for a bit. Maybe just put that over there.
People don't wanna see it.
I'll eat that later. If you get to that point where you recognise actually we need a big chunk of time on this, does it need to be
Stick
one
to it,
meeting?
Yeah.
Maybe we do it over 2, 3, 4 meetings over a period of time.
Yeah.
Thinking about, as you said, respecting people's time and what they've got to do, what they've got to get on with. Come and have a half-day meeting about this. How viable is that? Would you get the same result from doing 3 one-hour meetings or 90-minute meetings over a period of 2 weeks?
Welcome to the People Performance Podcast. The People Performance Podcast is made up of 3 series. First up, we have the Leader Lounge episodes with founder of T2, Martin Johnson. Then we have the guest interview episodes. And finally, we have our performance episodes delivered by our very own T2 consultants. For now, sit back, tune in and enjoy the People Performance Podcast.
What does this have to do with making your meetings more effective? Welcome to the People Performance Podcast. Welcome to the People Performance Podcast with me, Alex Mather.
And me, Rich McCarthy.
Rich, what are we here to talk about?
We're here to talk about how to run a productive meeting.
By bringing apples.
Yes. I'm intrigued because you've not told me about this and there's 3 or 4 on the table.
I know, and I've realised that I've started eating this one, and now we've got a podcast to do, and it's not very sociable. Apple.
Well, I thought they were plastic and then you bit into one. I was like, oh.
I know, yeah. And maybe just put that there for a bit. I'll just put that over there, and then
People don't want to see that.
I'll eat that later. So what have apples got to do with meetings? Well, firstly, let's talk about why we're talking about meetings in the first place. Meetings are a topic that swirls around in organisations all the time because people have meetings because of meetings. Almost every organisation that we speak to here at T2 will talk about how they have too many meetings about too many things. So why is that happening? Why is that going on? What I think would be great if we could do is break this into a 2-part series. Probably let's
Sounds good.
have a chat today about sort of what makes a good meeting. So what is it that what's the stuff we need to put right at the front and centre, right at the beginning, that we need to get sorted out, and then in the next one, probably next week, we'll have a chat about once you're in the meeting, how does that flow? What does that look like? How do you deal with certain characters in the meeting? That kind of stuff. Sound good?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Cool. Okay. So, how many meetings do you think you go to a week?
Oh, at T2?
Yeah. Do you have meetings outside of work? You're just like
Sometimes.
you're professional all the time.
Sometimes I have meetings outside of work, yeah. I like to call them meetings.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
Because then they're set out, if I say let's have a meeting, they're set in place. But at
like
T2, in the workplace, I'm going to be honest, I don't feel like they ever feel like meetings. It's just we come together as a group, consulting team, or as a whole team at T2, and it always just feels like we're there together to get stuff done. For me, that's from a personal point of view.
Yeah.
Sometimes they might be booked in, sometimes they might be ad hoc.
Ad hoc, yeah.
But actually, I love T2. I always come away feeling like we're being quite productive and quite enthused off the back of our meetings. So they always feel productive to me.
Yeah.
You?
Good. Yeah, same. I agree with you. I think our meetings are always productive, and I think that's because ultimately we've got a structure in how we go towards setting them up and how we go towards designing them and how we behave when we're in them. The number of meetings we have is a lot, though, isn't it? I think if we were to tot it up just as a raw number, then it's a lot. The reason that's important is I think if you're having a lot of meetings and they're unproductive and they feel like a waste of time and you're having loads of them, how detrimental is that to you and sort of how you feel about being at work? Right?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I've been in that in the past in a sense of having back-to-back meetings all day, rolling into them, one after the other, getting to near the end of the day and going, I've not even actually started my proper work and getting my stuff done. Some of the meetings have been productive, some of them haven't. And I'm just thinking in the back of my mind, when I've had those unproductive meetings, I could be doing something more productive with my time to get stuff done. And I guess that question is to everyone out there is, how often do they feel like that or find that Monday to Friday it's just meeting after meeting, and they could probably claw back some proper productive time elsewhere, or create and make those meetings more productive so that they can free up time, be more productive as an individual or as a collective, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that sort of idea or that mindset, when you're in there and you realise that it could be time better spent elsewhere, then festers, doesn't it? And then you come out frustrated, and then is there a follow-on from that afterwards? Do you leave that frustrated and move into the next meeting frustrated? Look, let's not jump ahead to too much of it. There's a structure to this that I want to take you through.
And I'm intrigued with this structure, because I've never seen it before, this toolkit. I've always tried to put my own things in place within meetings, like, I don't know, finishing 5 minutes early so I can grab some time to prep before my next meeting. But yeah, I'm interested about your tool and structure.
Okay. So as we said before, the tool or the acronym that I like to use when it comes to thinking about meetings and thinking about planning meetings is APPLE. APPLE.
Ah, now this makes sense.
100%.
Great.
Okay, yeah, I don't just bring random stuff into podcasts.
Yeah,
I do sometimes. But so let's start from the very beginning. So when we look at APPLE, when we look at setting up a meeting, we've got to start firstly with the aim.
Okay.
What's the aim of the meeting? Now that sounds ridiculously simple, doesn't it? What are you trying to get out of it? What's the point? At the end of this meeting, when everybody leaves the room, what will we have achieved? What is the aim of this meeting? As I said, that sounds really, really simple. But let me ask you this. Not so much at T2, but maybe in previous roles, how often have you gone into meetings or indeed set meetings up and it's been a little bit woolly and you're not really sure why you're there?
I mean, it's just been a little bit more chaotic in a sense of, who's leading it properly. Like you said, what do you want to achieve? If you don't have that, are you as a group or as a meeting collective just kind of like fumbling around in the dark?
Yeah.
And everyone's trying to push their priority or their agenda, and stuff just doesn't get done. Yeah. And then you're already, before you know it, arranging another meeting about the same thing without any structure. So, I mean, my question to you, Al, is like, with the aim, what does that do for the meeting? And if you don't have one, again, like, what does it look like for you?
Well, the simple thing it does is it sets the course, doesn't it? If you said this is what we're trying to achieve, this is what we need to get to.
Yeah.
How you communicate that and where you communicate that depends on the type of meeting. Now, we'll discuss in part 2 of this podcast about sort of what it looks like within the meeting. But if you're organising that meeting, you've got to be really clear in your head of what's the end point of this journey. Because otherwise, you're just the host on a chat show. So people are just coming in and talking randomly.
Yeah. So that's, to me, when you're describing that, I see it visually as like, that's a stake in the ground right at the very start of the meeting. So if things do go off track a little bit, it allows that person who's leading that meeting to bring it back to that stake in the ground. And this is the aim. Look,
absolutely, what
we're discussing now isn't part of the aim or getting us to that outcome or achievement. Yeah. Let's just bring it back. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll car park that. We'll park that, what you're talking about now, and we'll discuss that at a later date. But right now, this is the aim of the meeting.
100%. Okay. And that's so much harder to do if you've not made that clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then what does that look like when you don't do that? You have to backtrack, break the meeting for a little bit, and then come back at it and go, look.
Well, it's simple, isn't it? You can't say to someone, hang on, that's not part of what we're trying to achieve. And they go, well, I don't know what we're trying to achieve.
Yes.
So it sounds like a no-brainer, but I think it's so much of a no-brainer that it's often overlooked.
So that is a simple first tool within the acronym to go, this is our aim. This is why we're spending the next 45 to 50 minutes or an hour on this aim and achievement.
Okay. And even when you're preparing it, you've got that at the forefront of your mind when you're preparing the meeting. And that takes me on to the next letter quite nicely.
P.
So P, yes. So the first P is preparation. So preparing that meeting effectively, making sure you've got everything in place ready for it. So is there data that you need to collect? Do you need reports that people need to read? Is there any kind of resource or anything that needs to go out to the people that are attending before they're attending? And the other thing in this preparation is, what does your agenda look like? Now, here's a question. Do you need an agenda for every meeting?
I mean, my initial response would be no.
Yeah, I think you're right. You don't. And I think we can be realistic about that. If you're having a meeting about one thing that doesn't need to curtail off into different directions, then yeah, you don't need an agenda. You know why you're there and what to talk about.
And again, if it's like a running thread on a project, and you've got that structure and agenda set in that very first meeting, or you've had a meeting before the meetings of like, how do we go forward when we're having these meetings, running through this project? Soon as you step into that second, third, fourth meeting, people know that they're getting an aim.
Yeah,
they know that the course of the hour, because you've already set that agenda and it's become ingrained in people, right?
Yeah, that's it. So I think that you can. There are certain meetings, and you know your people and the people that are coming to those meetings. So if you don't need an agenda because you know the topic, you know the flow, then you don't have one. That's fine. But what you can go into a lot of the time is multi-conversational meetings that have multiple topics that are covering a lot of different areas. And maybe they have different people from different departments in. And I think that the reason agenda in preparation is so important is, how many meetings have you been to where there's an agenda, people tick that box with the agenda, but maybe it just arrives in your inbox, say the meeting starts at 10, it arrives in your inbox at 9:59. Just so you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Or how it used to be before you were getting it digitally, you'd go into a meeting and it'd just be there on the table when you first walked in. The problem with that is nobody's got any time to prepare anything for that, or think about what they're going to say in that section,
or come up with challenges.
Questions,
yeah.
And let's not forget, the reason you're having a meeting is to discuss those topics.
Yeah.
The best form of discussion around that topic is going to be one that's well planned, well thought out.
Yeah.
It's got good evidence based around it. You can't do that if you don't have early sight of the agenda, right?
Yeah, especially for like, someone like yourself, Al, might like to go. You might be quite equipped to go into that meeting last minute and bring out those ideas, bring out those challenging questions. But for someone like me, I would love that at least 24 hours before, so I could go, right, I want to plan a few questions, think out what's being said, so I can then have, be a valuable contributor to that meeting.
Yeah.
And I'll need that time rather than in the meeting. If I got that there and then, the minute before or on my desk, I'm just going to sit there and take it all in, then think about it, and then probably, if I'd want another meeting to discuss my ideas and thoughts and questions and challenges.
What happens then is that people start using your supposed agenda as the minutes of the meeting, and all they do is they refer to it after the meeting to remind them what they spoke about, which is not what it's there for. And there's a couple of things an agenda is not there for. That is one of them. So it's not used as a reflective account; it's a precursor to the meeting. The second thing an agenda should never be used for, and I'm very passionate about this because it boils my insides, it really does, is AOB. So any other business or something along those lines put on the bottom of an agenda is like a hand grenade in a meeting. Now I know where it's come from. Obviously it's come from historic practice in organisations, but I think what we now know is that you put any other business on an agenda, what you're basically doing is you're giving people a license to just bring anything into that meeting room, into that discussion, right at the end as well.
Yeah, you're right. And I also think, like, say if I saw that any other business and I'd be like, well, there's something that I'd like to talk about, but because it's at the end of the meeting when people are, maybe mentally at their capacity with the bandwidth of what's been discussed already, am I going to bring that up or not? Does it devalue that piece that people want to put in? And actually, should that be reserved and saved for priority later on in a different meeting?
And again, this is where it comes down to prep. If you're preparing your meetings properly, you're notifying the people that need to attend that this meeting's going ahead, what content needs to be in it. Give me your content by X date beforehand. Exactly as you just said. Well, you can prepare it then. People know that it's coming. It's not going to be devalued. You've got all the information and everything that goes towards it. AOB, yes, can potentially devalue your contribution if you're going to bring it up at that point. But also, you can devalue all the great stuff that you did in the meeting beforehand. You think you went through this meeting and made some real good points and got to some real good outcomes with some topics. Then you get to AOB at the end and someone throws a hand grenade in that causes this huge conversation. All of a sudden, everyone walks out of that room and all they're thinking about is that hand grenade that went in at the end of the meeting. What use is that? It doesn't serve a purpose other than giving it a talking box to people that want to talk. The other thing is that I also think that for some people it gives them license to not prepare properly. So I could prepare something if I knew you were planning a meeting and you were leading a meeting and I had a topic I wanted to raise, I could give it to you before the meeting. I could plan something out. I could send the information over to you. I could have it put on the agenda. You could be aware of it. Everyone else could be aware of it. Or I could just get on with something else and I'll just bring it up in any other business when we get to the end of the meeting. It's that prompt for that lack of preparation, I think, sometimes that can lead to lead to devalued and ineffective conversation right at the end.
And look, like we're just discussing opinions on that AOB, right? And I think, I'm excited to hear about the next P of the apple. I think my question would be out to the people out that are listening to this would be, do they utilise the AOB in a positive way, or do they delete that and use that time in that meeting more valuably in a sense of like any more valuable contributions to this topic and this agenda right now? Or it might be a case of giving an opportunity in an email after that if there's anything valuable that people want to discuss in the future to do. Be really interested to hear people's thoughts out there, what they do at the end of their meetings. But tell me about the second P.
Okay. Well, yeah, and you've led me into it quite nicely there, actually, because you're talking about time after the meeting and that kind of stuff. The second P is people.
Okay.
So when we talk about people, we're talking about who's in the meeting, who really needs to be in the meeting. I think it's really easy, especially nowadays, it's so easy to just throw everyone on an invite. Come if you want.
Yeah.
And not make that clear. If you put someone in an invite, you might send an invite out with, I'll just put them on it. If they want to come, they'll come.
Yeah.
I might receive that invite and think, oh, well, I've got to go. Even though you're not particularly fussed. I have lost count of the amount of meetings, as we said before, not so much here at T2, but I've lost count of the amount of meetings that I've sat in and gone, I don't need to be here.
I think I got, in previous work and stuff, I got that onto a T in a sense of like, I've utilising that optional button on like Teams, so people would know actually I don't need to be there, but if I've got the time, I want to be there and I can be there, right?
I think that it's so very easy for us to have people in rooms that don't need to be there at all. The best gift that you can give people in organisations nowadays is time. Again, it's something that people talk to us all the time about, is they don't have enough time in the day. So when you take that from people inadvertently, to be able to give them some of that back, I think is a fantastic gift. And the other way you can do that is by looking at, if I've got a multi-topic meeting, I've sat in meetings before as an L&D professional. I've sat in HR meetings before where they've spoke about a raft of HR stuff. There's one section, maybe it's point number 8 on the agenda, which is about L&D, which is the only bit I need to be involved in and talk about. But I'm there for the whole 3 hours. And I think when you say it like that, that sounds crazy, doesn't it? But you see it all the time. It happens all the time.
It does. I can sit on both sides of the fence, like, because someone would argue that you need to be in there for context because of the bigger picture, which is understandable.
100%.
Get it. I think for me, when we're talking about the people in meetings, I mean, I've sat in meetings before and I've been like, that's not a good use of my time. But the trap there is and people fall into this trap in organisations where they go, well, we need to keep everyone informed and consulted.
Yes.
So they need to be in that meeting. So they'll get people who will go, why am I here? But the people that are leading those meetings go, well, if you weren't, and then you are out of the loop now, and you're hearing second source information from somebody that was on the meeting, is it getting diluted? So I guess what's the get around with that when you?
Well, the simple and easy way is: do you have a brief catch up for context with them separate to the meeting, or is it as simple as just because they didn't attend the meeting doesn't mean they can't get the minutes?
Yeah.
If there's going to be some key context there held within the minutes of the meeting, you can send the minutes to whoever you want if it's just for context. But
and I guess that communication piece is getting it. Those people within that meeting, how are they going to cascade that down to the people that weren't in that meeting, and making sure it's a simple message to get across, right? Yeah, great. Anything else on people?
I think that's it. So identify who needs to be there.
Yeah.
For how long, for when. And being okay with the fact that it's all right for people to come in and out of meetings mid-meeting. And as I said, biggest gift you can give someone is time.
Yeah.
So by not taking that from them, they'll probably really appreciate that.
Perfect.
APPL. So we're talking about length.
Right.
Now. So how long does this meeting really need to be? Again, and look, I made no bones at the start of this that this was some super genius rocket science thing that I was going to say about meetings. It's crudely simple. But that's because when we look at the length of meetings nowadays, we fall into a few different habits or patterns with this sometimes, which is where every meeting's got to be an hour or half an hour. And we don't spend enough time thinking realistically, how long does this actually need to take?
Yeah.
Actually, it'll take about 10 minutes. Okay, let's put a 15-minute meeting in there. Let's just do it for 15 minutes. So we've got a little bit of float there if we do go over. And then we can get back to what we're doing. Again, it's the gift of time. I think it's so easy when we've got things like, especially when we're working on things like Teams, for us to just go back to back to back to back in meetings, 1 hour into another hour, into another hour, into another hour.
And I've always appreciated that when people have gone, do you know what? It's taken us a bit of time to get into this meeting. We are in a flow. It is good. We are being productive. But do you know what? I recognise that with it 45, 50, 55 minutes. Well, I know people are going into another meeting now. Let's give them some space at 5 minutes. And do you know what I've also appreciated? When I have had rolling back-to-back meetings and I've jumped into a meeting and said, apologies that I'm late, back-to-back meetings, and the person leading that has gone, well, look, let's take 5 or 10. We've got the time.
Come back.
Let's go get a coffee. It just gives you that headspace and bandwidth to come into the meeting and be a real valuable contributor, right? Rather than going,
you need it.
I've not even prepped for my second, third, fourth meeting, and now it's getting away from me.
Well, the other problem that you're fighting against with that is Parkinson's law as well. Parkinson's law dictates that tasks will expand to fit the time allocated to them. So if you've booked a meeting for an hour, well, the people in the room can make that meeting last an hour.
Yes.
And they feel like they've got the freedom and the will to be able to stretch that. You could get the same thing done potentially in 30 minutes. So make it 30 minutes.
Yes.
It also leads
Love
you
that.
into these snappier actions and reactions and outcomes from meetings as well. Let's get it done quick. But what it requires is a real conscious attention to how much time does this meeting actually need.
Yeah. I absolutely love that Parkinson's law, and I've never heard that before. And it just got me thinking back to like my adventure days, where it's like someone once told me, if you buy a 50-litre bag or a 100-litre bag or 150 you're packing it. You'll pack it, you'll fill it. And that's the same with meetings, right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Love
It's
it.
the same with meetings. It's the same with anything you do. If you allocate a period of time to do a certain amount of work, well, you'll, and I don't mean the odd minutes. It's not like if you allocate an hour to do a piece of work, be it a meeting or a project, if you allocate it an hour and you do it in 55, you're not jumping from the ceiling and going, oh, like I beat Parkinson's law or all that kind of stuff. It's about bigger stretches of time than that and how all of this stuff becomes cumulative. When you condense it to a point, you can usually get the same result. But you've got to be careful with that, because you don't want to condense it so far that actually we can't get it done in that time. But that, again, that's why it needs real conscious thought and thinking about.
Okay. So, so to summarise that with length, it's about thinking consciously of how much time you actually need for the meeting, but also thinking about other people's time and utilising that properly and respecting that, right?
100%.
Okay.
And it also works the other way.
Yeah.
In terms of, don't undersell the amount of time it's going to take or it's going to be required. And if you get to that point where you recognise, actually, we need a big chunk of time on this, does it need to be
Schedule
one
it
meeting?
Yeah.
Maybe we do it over 2, 3, 4 meetings over a period of time.
Yeah.
Thinking about, as you said, respecting people's time and what they've got to do, what they've got to get on with. Come and have a half-day meeting about this. How viable is that? Would you get the same result from doing 3 1 hour meetings or 90-minute meetings over a period of 2 weeks,
and
something like that.
And we've done that in the past, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've been like, do you know what? This 45-minute meeting, we haven't achieved everything we wanted to achieve, but we've got the ball rolling. It's been productive. We've set the fundamentals to go out in that next meeting and go and hit what we need to hit, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Right. E.
APPLE.
Tell me about it.
Environment. So the environment in which you're holding a meeting is really, really important. But it's another thing that's often overlooked. And I think a lot of organisations have meeting rooms. They have allocated meeting rooms. And so unconsciously what we think is, if I'm having a meeting, I've got to be in a meeting room. And you end up having these, something like a creative brainstorming meeting in a really clinical, quite boring boardroom that doesn't really inspire anything from anyone. And then we sit around scratching our heads wondering why we're not coming up with good ideas when there's nothing in that room to inspire any type of creativity at all. So the environment is really important to the outcome of the meeting and for what you want from that meeting.
So what does that environment look like then, Al?
Well, it depends. It depends on the type of meeting you're having. You've got, and this is why all the letters that happen before that, the APPL, so what's the aim of the meeting? How prepared are you for it? Who's attending and how long is it going to be? All of that has to go into, okay, so what environment do I need for this to be a success?
So maybe start with the finish in mind.
To that, if you're looking at the environment, what are we trying to achieve in that? What's the outcome? And therefore, what environment does that dictate? Here's a great example. You want to have a real quick, snappy meeting because you've got to make a decision on something. Go do it in a room where there's no chairs. People don't want to hang around if there's nowhere to sit and get comfy.
Might happen at your desk, right?
Something like that. Yeah, it's got to be quick. It's got to be snappy. Get you into this room where there's no chairs. We'll all stand around. We'll talk about it. We'll come out with an outcome. 10 minutes. Bang. We're done.
Okay.
We've got a meeting that needs to be more creative. We've got a meeting where we've got a chunk of time. We need to come up with loads of ideas. We've got to think about stuff slightly differently. I'll tell you what, let's go in a room that's a little bit more comfortable. Maybe there's some sofas or some beanbags or something. Maybe there's not. I mean, a lot of people don't have that luxury, but just in a space where people can relax and think openly about stuff and they can have the freedom to go outside of the box.
Yeah.
I think that very often people are a product of the environment in which they're in.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. And I think I'll play a bit of a devil's advocate now. You know, you're talking about beanbags, creativity, things people can play with. Yeah. You know, if I turned up to it, and that people might be out there now going, well, it's all well and good saying that, but budget, space,
we don't have that.
The environment itself, the building, or we might work, you know, from home remotely. Yeah. If I turned up to a team meeting and I was like, I've got us all these fluffy things to think about, utilise, beanbags, my team might be like, what? You know, what?
That's not going,
that's not going to help us. When actually, the main aim with that environment is knowing your team, knowing what they need, having that discussion with them, like what will help us be more creative when we have those creative meetings. Yeah. It might not be beanbags. It might be a case of, actually want some sensory visuals on the screen and a bit of quiet time.
We need some windows.
We need some windows with natural light. Or actually, rather than doing it in the office space we've been in for the last, 3 or 4 hours, or actually it might not be doing it remotely. It might be like, let's get the team together for a day for 2 weeks, a month, to just sit down, nice and relaxed. But you won't know that until you speak to your team and they'll tell you what they need, right?
Absolutely. And this is the, I guess this is the irony of what we're talking about there, because sitting down, talking to your team and figuring out what do they want their meetings to look like is effectively a meeting about meetings.
But it wouldn't be an unproductive meeting.
But it wouldn't be unproductive.
No.
You're exactly right. And that's the key to it. And it's one that you don't have to have that often, because once you've got that nailed and you know what they want, well, then you can cater to it. The other thing, you make a really good point, actually, because the other thing that you've got to consider there is, look, we've got the privilege being at T2 that we work in fantastic offices with an absolutely incredible, amazing space, that we've got lots of different rooms with loads of different aesthetics in them and all that kind of jazz. And it's easy for us to say, well, you just got a different type of room depending on your mood and what you're trying to achieve and all that. But I'm very aware that most of the people that are listening to this podcast probably don't have that luxury. They don't have different rooms, different aesthetics. They don't have a gorgeous free floor building, that kind of stuff. They've got clinical meeting rooms with boardroom tables. And so how do you affect that space in order to achieve that same outcome? Well, you don't just throw your hands up and say, well, this is all we've got. You just got to be a little bit more creative with that idea. You made a great point before about if you've got a meeting where you're walking around talking, maybe it's a weekly meeting where you're just feeding back on what's gone on through the week. Do you need to do that in the clinical room? Do you need to do it in the building? At the minute, this is harder in the winter, but at the minute when the weather's so amazing, go out for a walk. Go do a walking meeting. The amount of well-being that you can get from being outside, doing those steps, taking in that fresh air and having that conversation is absolutely incredible. So just think about it through a different lens. Do we need to be in this building doing this at this time? Or as a group of adults, are we allowed to go outside and have a little bit of a walk around? It's usually all right. Yeah. If it's got to be a little bit more creative and you want people to just chew over stuff, but again, you've only got that sterile clinical space that doesn't look very creative, well then try your best to make the room creative. It doesn't have to be beanbags and that's a grandioso statement, but maybe some stuff for them to fiddle with or to mess with or different colour pens, all that kind of stuff. It's just about thinking, how do we make the space appropriate for the meeting we're having? It doesn't take a lot to take the chairs out of a room if it's full of chairs. So thinking along those lines I think will help as well.
Yeah, perfect. So out of all those five elements, 5 great elements to running a productive meeting, what would your one thing from our talk today, Al, you'd want people to really walk away with and be like, that's my trigger and wow moment?
I think it would be people and environment, for sure. Like I said, the biggest gift you can give to people is time. Do those people need to be in that meeting? And if they do, for how long and when? Yeah. And what environment are you bringing those people into?
Because that's the value piece of those people, isn't
100%,
it?
100%. Yeah. And I think if you can start thinking along those lines, your meetings will already become better. The reason I like this APPLE acronym is because it's pretty simple to remember. What you got to remember is every time you're going into a meeting, you've just got to take an apple into it. Take an apple into a meeting and your meeting will probably be all right.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, that was bordering on cheesy in terms of a way to end a podcast, but I'll take it. Like it sounds like a good way to end it for me, I think.
Right, Al, just to summarise.
Yeah.
To run a productive meeting, simple acronym, APPLE, aim, preparation, people, length, and environment. Okay, that's 5 simple elements to the acronym to remember to run a productive meeting. Now, my question is to the people out there listening, out of those 5 elements, which one is the most important to you right now? Drop it in the comments below and let's have a chat. Thanks for joining us on today's People Performance podcast with myself, Rich McCarthy, and Alex Mather. We will look forward to seeing you again on the second part of this podcast.
Bye for now.
The People Performance Podcast, brought to you by T2.